Thank you everyone for coming. This is the complete guide to vaccine administration. My name is Brian Kennedy. I'm here with Jim Smith and Romney Palmer in the back. Basically what this course is going to be is we are doing essentially a full run through of if you have a new vaccine and what it takes to get that configured, the process of ordering that, checking your stock, everything there, all the way through Romney to go into registry information and just a ton of info about that. So, from configuration to refrigeration, the goals of this course is just to learn how to configure a new vaccine in PCC, learning how to add them to your inventory, map them in your system correctly, and then learning on how to report on them as well as using a scanner. So the first step is kind of in my realm on the billing side. So you want to prepare your office for a new vaccine. The first step is you can use the new tables that we have moved over to the EHR. If you're not aware of that, we have moved them out of TED and they are now in the EHR. So you can add that to your procedures table. My recommendation for these when you're adding stuff that is new is just cloning an existing item. So if you have a similar vaccine, if you have a new year, doing a clone of that will just be easier for you to get that set up. Verifying that the NDC is in this table entry, that's a really important note. In your inventory for the vaccines in the EHR, just in the separate section, for that outside of the procedure section, there is a place to put your NDC code. However, this particular entry here in your procedures table is what actually gets sent out to the payers. So if you're getting any kind of rejections stating that you don't have an NDC code, that needs to be listed here. So please make sure that that is listed. And then if you have any other questions, or if you have a new type of vaccine, it's covering a new immunization, new disease, give us a call. We add that into your, it was TED table 2, it's your immunization diseases table. The reason why we ask you to call us is because if that's being added in, that doesn't automatically add it to your school forms. So if you're trying to print out vaccines for kids for school, to pass that along, that's not going to appear there. And there's some other weird quirks that we need to set up in the background to make sure that all functions properly. So we just ask, if you are adding something brand new, just give us a holler or send us an email and we can help make sure that's set up right. What do we ask for when you call us to say you have something to add there? We're going to be just making sure, one, have you added this to the procedures table? The next step is, do you know the CVX code for that? If you don't, if you have the NDC code, we can also do some mapping. There's mapping tables online to be able to find what that is, but we just want to verify that it is the right actual product and being linked up correctly for our reporting. And then just asking you, how is this going to appear on your immunization form? If this is something where you already have a category you would want to slot into and just be added there, we'll ask you that. Other things to think about too is if you want a new category altogether, we'll make sure that gets configured. So why do we ask for this information? One is so you can add that in properly and make sure that it's working correctly. We're also verifying that you've got this set up to map to your billing codes, making sure that is going to be added to your protocols, and sending it to your state registry, as well as making sure it prints on the immunization forms. Next step of this is once this has been added, as far as the billing side goes, you'll want to go into your billing configuration, the EHR. You'll see you want to, generally most practices will add that Z23 encounter for immunization for all of theirs. Not every practice will do it. Some of them don't like on the electronic encounter form having multiple copies of a Z23 when you have those being added by a provider, especially for well visits where they're getting multiple vaccines. So this may or may not be on there and may just live on the encounter screen at the end. The other side of this is your billing procedures. We'll get into that a little bit later about components, but just making sure that you're adding the correct procedure code that you've added in previously in one of the prior steps, and making sure that you have your vaccine administration components. Most practices we find are going to be doing your 90460 and 61 series as pre-selected, as generally the recommendation, because providers are going to be providing counseling for those. But if you do also add those 904.7 series, it's usually a good idea just in case, so that it's available for providers to select on the electronic encounter form. Next step of this is adding new vaccine orders to your visit protocols. So when you're going into the protocols themselves, making sure that you have something that's selectable if this is a vaccine that you want to be listed there all the time. So it's just easy for providers to click and say, yes, this is the one I want to order, making sure that it's being added there, as well as making sure that your immunization orders component is anchored. Makes it really easy just to jump over to that. And then I think I'm going to hand this off over to Jim.
Well, hello guys. You ready to rock and roll? And how do we do this in protocol configuration? So if we head to protocol configuration, I got the example of the 12-monther up here. Let me find the little red button here. And you can make it the anchor, which if you guys remember when you're doing protocol config, anchor, meaning it's always going to display on the left side, or you can say no. If you want to hide it on your providers, you can. But in the 12-monther, we know we're going to do varicella. We know we're going to do a Hep A. We're going to do an MMR. So when you guys first set this up, it's going to be blank. And you come down and you click Add Item, and you put them in the order you want. And it's really cool because you can click and drag. So if you have a doctor that wants them alphabetized, or like MMR always goes in the left thigh, varicella always goes in the right thigh, Hep A goes in the left thigh, and that's just me because I'm always hung to the left, and then you always separate your two so you know if one leaves a welt or one doesn't. But you know, it's very customizable. Same for the nurse visits. You know, we have the nurse lab only. You know, you see theirs is a little bit longer. But like you said, if we don't put something there, it just gives them the drop down, and they can click the drop down and see anything at any time. So you're just trying to speed people up, right? And then, is this me or you? I can't remember. I can keep going. What? Okay. Okay, we can. Here you go. Here's the mic, and
I want the laser pointer. That's all I want is the laser pointer.
It's all about the laser.
It's all about the laser pointer. Yeah, there we go. It's a very tiny little dot, though. I mean, so we all know this. This is the talking about vaccine inventory. Various ways to manage your inventory. I'm sure you all have been in the vaccine lot manager, and some of you may or may not use a scanner to do your inventory. With various levels of success or frustration, depending on the vaccine. Anyway, but the nice thing about scanning is that it pulls everything in, so you know those little typos that screw up your inventory with the registry don't happen as often. And it pulls everything in except for the funding source and maybe the location if you have a multi-location practice. And for anybody who's new here, who's never been here before and seen this tool, it's right here. I don't think that's the case here, but yep, so we're going to go to the vaccine lot manager, and we can click on scan, and if the lot is already in there, it can bring it up. But if it's not, and you're adding a new lot, you'll be able to add a new lot. So it's retrieving your immunization. Well, it's matching that CVX code, which I'm going to point out because I'm in clinical data exchange. So I work with immunization registries all the time. Not so much with billing, and a lot of the workflow is unique to your practice. But I can tell you that CVX codes are kind of my universe, and NDC codes. And so a lot of things kind of work off of that code. So it'll use the CVX code, and then it'll add, your manufacturer, your NDC code, your lot number, and your expiration date, and then you would add your, indicate the funding source and the location if you have multiple location offices, and then your quantity. So a couple tricks I wanted to mention, because I know a lot of people have. I've talked to people who've been like, well, I couldn't put the NDC code in because it wouldn't let me. I didn't mean to stare at you.
We're just enthused that she's the one that calls all the time. Okay.
Well, here's the other thing is that I have names and faces are all messed up with me because I'm on the phone with you all the time, so I don't know. But yes, so the one of the things is you won't be able to pick an NDC code if the CVX code and the manufacturer code don't match, because it creates that list. So if you select the manufacturer on the immunization that you're adding and you're trying to select an NDC code and you can't, that is a clue that something is not right. So, and I won't get into the details of that. But give us a call. However, you might be able to troubleshoot it yourself. So those NDC codes have a lot of information. That doesn't mean anything to humans who are reading it, but the computers find it very meaningful. And if you, one of the tricks I've mentioned before is if you can see the little NDC code and you're not scanning it automatically, if you select that NDC code, it will auto-populate the manufacturer. And if the CVX code is right. And sort of like, how when you put in the zip code, it'll auto-populate the city? So like that. And also, which is not as noticeable, if you select the manufacturer and you do see a list of NDC codes, they're the only NDC codes that go with that manufacturer. So they kind of work together like that. Okay. Anyway, enough of that. So then you want to make sure to select your funding source, and various states have different labels for a funding source, or even VFC codes. The labels, the descriptions of those codes can vary. The actual codes themselves are pretty standard. I privately wish that you could also see the actual funding source code. But if you ever have any questions, just let us know and I can send you how it translates. Because sometimes the registries will be like, well, you didn't send us the right code. And you're like, but it says state supplied or whatever. In the background, they're looking for a specific code, and maybe there's a communication breakdown on what they call that code. So anyway, but that's very important, especially when you're doing your inventory and VFC stuff. And then, of course, you can adjust your quantities and all that, and add notes if you need to. And as you administer immunizations, that'll adjust the quantity automatically as well. Oh, it's you? Okay. Here you go.
All right, so we're going to talk about some vaccine reporting. What's in the fridge, who gave it, and who got it, right? Ready? For 10 points. No, I'm just kidding, right? So we go, this all lives in the reports library, so this should look familiar to you guys. Under the immunizations, you got yeah, I can't talk today, that's good, right? I circled them so I'd remember, right? Immunization, administration details in your vaccine inventory reconciliation worksheet. And if you guys don't know, we're keeping this simple for everybody. If it's got the little PCC logo after it, that means it's a stock report. And then you can see I gave the example here that there's one missing. That means you guys have customized it, okay? Just as a happy reminder. Because if you're like, hey, every week I want to run this, but every week I got to just hit customize and do this, and you're like, well, customize it and then save it, right? So help yourself out, okay? And as always, if you don't know how to do that, call us. So what's in your fridge? The vaccine information worksheet is here. And you just say, hey, I want to see what's available, what's reserved, because who really wants to count what's depleted? That should be a 0, I would hope, right? Sometimes you do need to go back to the depleted to see, did we really have that lot number? But that's another report when you're trying to call a kid back in because they said, hey, HPV might have had glass shards in it from 10 years ago. You need to call everybody that had this lot number. Would have been great if we had this report then, right? But, and then you can do it by lot location. And as you can see in my second, I know this is small. I deeply apologize. I just went to wearing glasses myself, so now I'm like, what was I thinking? But, so what I always say when you guys are using this reconciliation worksheet, and I'll say this broadly to everybody, customize it and get rid of the expected count, okay? I'm not saying that to be mean. I'm saying I'm going to hand it to my staff. I want them to legitly count what's in the fridge for that lot number, okay? Because how many times do you come in on Monday morning and you're like, wow. And then I look and it says, hey, they're expecting 10 of the D-tab. Well, there's 10 there. Circle it and move on, right? So eliminate that barrier. But you're right. When they hand it back to you guys in your office, you're going to be like, oh, my God, how many are really there? Well, you can run it and you can see. You can do a, for me, eyes only report so you can see what you're really expecting. And then when you get rid of that column there, they can just write it in, right? So just help yourselves out, okay? But, if you're small enough, all work together. Best time to run these reports, early morning. We let you schedule it. So run at 5:30 in the morning, because guess what? There's nobody there giving them yet, right? I have a lot of offices say, hey, we do it at lunch. Right, but if the doctor didn't order it and finish it, it's not going to be accurate, right? Or even at the end of the day. So schedule it for 5:30 in the morning on, say, Friday or whatever, and you know it's going to be there. You print it, you hand it to the nurses, MAs, whoever, when they come in and say, please go count this. So, just, oh, wow. Oh, this is my favorite one. I love Minions. So when I say what's in your fridge, right? What is with your fridge? Do you guys still have some, we won't, are the cameras on still? Okay, they are. If you have a dorm fridge and you're using it as a vaccine fridge, come on, guys. Please, no. I'm not going to point anybody out. Hi. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm just kidding. No. But, the way it's going nowadays, how old is your fridge? Do you, even though if you don't do VFC, because you're like, you know what? We're private vaccines. We buy our own. We don't do VFC. You know what? Read the VFC rules, because it's going to help you keep your fridge compliant. It's, even because, well, VFC's tough. Well, VFC has got it going on, right? Because they're helping you out. So make sure you do have those water bottles filled in the fridge. Make sure, and it's goofy, you say, why do you put tape so that somebody doesn't put something right up to the tape? Well, you want it up to the tape. You don't want it up against the wall, So help yourself out, and then what did I put there? Buy an old Michigan. Oh, the temperature probes. You're right, because you're like, oh, it came with it. Or is it an external one that you guys tape to the outside? But what are you doing with the cords? You're putting them through the plastic, the seal on the side, and that's escaping the cold temperature right there. So another good reason to buy, they're a little bit more money, but there's companies, if you go to the AAP website, we worked with them to help them suggest which ones work. But make sure you guys have it. This is a lot of money. And like you heard from Dr. Diazio this morning, when we're trying to convince the family it's safe, is the fridge safe? So, it comes right down to that level, okay? There's your commercial. Okay, well, good, we're back. Okay, so who gave the vaccine? And you don't want to use the terminology, we're going to play blame game. Whose fault was it? But no, we all work together as a team, because it's the doctor saying, yes, the kid needs to get this. It's you going to give it. And I loved being the shot guy. I'll admit it, to this day, I miss giving shots to kids, because that was my favorite job, was taking their energy of being so afraid and putting it somewhere else, and then having them walk out and say, when are we going to do the vaccine? Well, we're already done, because I was talking to them about something else and was doing it when they were least expecting it. But so I de-identified this, but you get your patient names, you got your PCC number, and you got all this good stuff. And then it says who is administered by, and it's got your funding source. So if you guys are doing VFC and you're buying them as well, did we accidentally give a VFC and we should have gave a private? And I'm going to show you how we can remedy that in a little bit here. And then of course your locations, okay? And it's really cool with this one too. You can put the insurance plan on there when you customize it, because if they got a VFC, did they have Blue Cross and they shouldn't have got VFC? So that's another safety check for you guys when you say who did it, why'd they do it, why is our number off? It's just to help you guys out better, okay? And of course, reporting from the lot manager, which you can just see what we saw. When you come into the lot manager, like Romney was just showing, you got all your stuff here. It's going to give you the kiddos that got it, and then it counts down for you. Yes, we know everybody's wish is, when it gets to 0, Jim, we want it to deplete automatically. Yes, but how many times do you guys buy a multi-dose vial of polio, and you can get 12 doses out of it? It'd be great if it goes to 0, but then somebody's going to look at it and go, oh, that's empty. And guess what? They just want some money, right? So be careful. So, go to the wishing well and say, hey, it'd be great if, but, there's checks and balances to why. And then this is why you're doing your inventory, because if it's at 0, you want to deplete it, because then somebody's not grabbing that lot number. But how do you fix it in a hurry? Who knows? I'll tell you how to cheat the system. Ready? So if we know we were at 0, and our favorite pick-on person in the front row, hi, no, accidentally gave that vaccine and it brought you to a -1, but you know you gave that other lot number, go back into that kid's chart and change the lot number from what it was to what you gave for a lot number. It brings it back to 0, quickly deplete it, and it takes it away from the right one, okay? So, there's some correction factor. Do I recommend doing that 6 months later? No, because nobody's going to remember, okay? But if you guys are that diligent with your counts, you're going to catch it quick, right? So just, that's my little tidbit on how to beat the system. But it's a legit beat, okay? Because yes, everybody should look at it, or you're using your scanner so you know you're getting the right lot number. There's other helpful reports, aka PCC support, your client advocate, or reports library. Go in here and play, you guys. You're not going to break anything. Don't be afraid of the reports library. It's only going to help you. You have your counts. So when your doctor says, hey, how many flu vaccines did we give last year? Because I need to order it for this year. Do we just make up a number? Do you go 10 above? Do you go 10 below? How do you know how many to do? There's 10 in a box, or is there 10 in a vial? Are you doing a syringe? So there's all these wonderful, awesome reports we give you, okay? Oh, my favorite. Don't you think these flashing lights are pretty cool? I hope they can see them online too, but you never know. What do you guys do if the power goes out? And we've had a lot of this lately. Who's the first person you call? It used to be Ghostbusters. We got a lot of young people in the room and going, who is Ghostbusters? So now you call PCC. Hey, my server's off. Yeah, your power's out. What's my second question to you? Where's your vaccines going? Just because I've done it for so long, that's my question. What are you doing with your vaccines? What are you doing if your fridge quits? You're not going to hire a new one that quickly, right? So you're like, oh my goodness, what are we doing? So do you have a plan? Again, we don't give VFC vaccines, but you still need the plan because VFC is going to ask you, hey, what's your plan if the fridge quits? Because you know what they want. They want your money to pay back for the vaccines that you lost, right? We know that for a fact. But so does your doctors because you can file an insurance claim. But, what is your plan when the power goes out? They're going to Jim's house. Oh, okay. Well, crap, he's on vacation. So you're right. That's another thing to always think of. What is your plan? That's one of the most expensive things other than paying your salary in your office. Probably the malpractice insurance is a little up there too, but your vaccine fridge is your most important coworker in the office and your freezer. Oh, wow, we're up to break already? Well, you know what we're going to do is we're just going to stand up and stretch our arms and keep going. What do you guys think? Or do you guys want 5 minutes to go get coffee? Because we'll finish the slides, take 5 minutes, or if you want to keep rolling, we'll keep rolling, whatever you guys want. All right, you in the back. Oh, keep going? Okay. So now it's called just takeaways because nobody wants a break. So, okay. So, the people online we're hearing, people online, they could go to the bathroom, we'd never know it, right? So, okay. All right. So, that's okay. So we're going to keep rolling. So number one takeaway, pretending we were taking a break, is call PCC when you get the new vaccine. Get it in your procedure table. Help us help you, right? The other thing that, Brian was so gracious, TED Table 2, aka tables in the EHR now. The one thing you guys can do is make it orderable in the EHR, yes or no. That's what we give you for control. So if you know you're getting flu next week, but that's last year's flu, you can go to that tables and mark it orderable, no. And then somebody's going to say, hey, flu's not in there. Oh, I forgot to call PCC. Give me a second. And then or support@pcc.com, okay? So you guys can help eliminate the errors by just doing that simple thing. We didn't take all of it away from you. You help us, we help you. We're a team, right? So that's what it says. After you call PCC, we're going to tell you, hey, we've added it. Please don't forget to map your billing. Because how many people have done that? No, we're not going to pick on you because the one next to you did it, right? No, but no. No, but no. Oh no. She's like, oh no, Jim, what? No, but you got to remember, we won't map your billing for you. We'll help give you the kind reminder to map your billing. Okay, just remember that. And if you need help, we screen share. We'll do it. We'll help you. We're gonna walk you through it. But remember, 99 point. It's supposed to be 100%, but now we're being recorded. So yes, 100% of the time you guys are mapping your billing, but we're always there to help you. We don't ever say no. And then using a vaccine scanner. Oh, you wanted to enter the win. Oh, we forgot to take that out from last year. So last year we gave a free vaccine scanner away. I don't know, we'll raffle off Romney at the end. You can take her back to your office, or you can raffle off me. No, but yeah. Oh, yeah. Pack your bags. You're going to Oklahoma. Woo! No. All right. But so, yeah, see, yeah. But, does a vaccine scanner help you guys? It does. It does help eliminate error. Does it slow? Well, it's really fun to see. Does it slow you down? I think it does great when it comes into your office. Does it slow you down when you guys banter with us? It's fast all the way around. It's cutting down on errors. It's getting better every time. When we first started, I was like, I'm faster than the scanner. Not anymore, because now I'm older and I'm slow. Okay. So that was our take a break. I think that was my grandpa. That's my uncle. Yes, they're smoking, so I don't know why we're doing that. But when I see this picture, I wonder, do you think they really were doing this, or they didn't crop it in back then, did they? I don't know. I mean, see, okay, go back to the slides. Okay, I get it, you guys. You're right. So now we're going to go into the from giving shots to reconciling the lots. You got to reconcile stuff like we've been talking about. Learn how to record vaccines accurately, right? You're going to learn how to get them to the school. You guys everybody has a portal account now, right? All but me, because I'm a pain in the butt patient where I say, no, I'm going to call you. But, and then getting it to the registries. And then we also say we got some best practices on how to keep stuff tidy and how to keep your IMS records. How do you want it? Do you want it to just break everything out? And we're going to go over that. That was not me giving the shot. I wish it was. But, so giving the shot. We're going to review the patient's immunization record. We're going to talk about some forecasting. We're going to talk about the VFC things. And yes, we know not all of you do VFC, but we just got to broadly hit on it, right? And then ordering and administering the vaccines. This one really, if they refuse it, mark it, okay? Don't be afraid to mark refused. And the hard part with refused is they didn't want it, so mark it, okay? And the only reason I say that is because your billers are going to be like, hey, we're getting a HEDIS audit next week, and they're checking kids for their Hep B second dose, or if they're doing HPV number 2s before 13. But you don't mark it refused. Guess what? Blue Cross comes in and they say, you saw 100 patients and 90 of them didn't get HPV. And what are you going to say to that lonely person? Oh, they got it. They refused it. Where does it say refused? It doesn't. Don't be afraid of the word refused, okay? Please don't. It's okay to, if a family says refused, refuse it.
Can I add something?
Well, yeah, you can.
And don't forget to put a reason.
Yeah, that was our... Right.
Because the registries really like a reason, and they get upset when there's no reason.
No, that's good. So perfect, right. And then the other piece you got to your CI, you're like, oh man, is this cops? Because it's like, no, it's not confidential informant. It's for my favorite word I can never say, contraindicated, so, you're giving a kid a live vaccine, but it's Thanksgiving and grandma and grandpa are on chemo or one of them, and they're going to see them and they're like, I'm not going to give a rota this week because that's live. They're going to see their grandparents. Mark a CI and then schedule an appointment for next week when they come back and give the kid the rota, right? So yes, we have doctors and all kinds of staff in here, but you know what? Banter with each other. Hey, they can't have the flu miss this year because, the sibling is in remission, and you're going to be, okay. Well, if they're going to sit there and wait, or you talk them into getting the poke, right? So it just helps you out. So don't be afraid to, you're like, we don't want to see all these refused on our records. Yes, you do. Okay? Because again, it leads back to the HEDIS measures. It leads back. It's not that you're giving bad care. Use it. It's a tool. And if you need to show proof, that's proof enough right there, right? So when they see it. You also see in here, you have it highlights to say what's ordered today. And then, of course, you can add your diseases at the bottom. So that's a cool stuff, okay? And you guys, you know the hidden little trick. Those people behind us are drop kick Murphys or whatever they are. There's the print button here where if you have a special awesome PDF form, you're like, boy, I wish our office could use our pretty PDF form, call support. Because on that print, we give you the generic 1983 text. Woo! But, if you hit print here, we can give you the choice of replacing that with a pretty form. If you guys have a great logo, let's use the pretty logo. And that pretty logo, we can code it to when they go to the portal, the parents can print the pretty logo where you're like, hey, we give them a pretty one in the office, but they're not getting a pretty one at home. We can fix that, okay? Forecasting. I think this is you, but we can keep going. Maybe it's me. I don't know. But we all know what green means, right? Punch the gas and don't stop, right? So green, yellow. My son just got his license 2 weeks ago. I promise you're safe in Vermont because I don't pick up his car till next week. Okay. So green is good to go, right? Let's give him one, right? Red tells you the past due. This one I'll have to ask Romney for. I do not know who is going to be alive in 2133. I don't know. But we had to put a date there, so we had to come up with something to make you guys ask us questions, okay? That's what I've always said. And then you got the forecast warnings down below. Read the warnings. If you're like, oh my goodness, I don't know why this is not, what is going on? Just read it. Because also the cool part is it gives you the CVX code. So if you're like, hey, but you can look at it. The minimum age wasn't met. And that happens a lot with Hep B's with these combos. Or my favorite one is the polio, because we're doing combos. Hey, you gave the kid an extra polio. Who cares? Thanks. But the forecaster's working. And remember, the forecaster's a tool. It does not take the place of those great doctors, nurse practitioners, PAs, front desk staff that think they know. Well, yeah, no. It's a tool, okay? So if you don't agree with it, either ask yourself why, or did we flub up? Is there something wrong? Because that COVID last time, how it's always been. It kept changing on us so fast that these guys couldn't keep up. So that's why I said it's a tool.
Yeah, it doesn't take into account any of high risk patients or whatever they're, if the famous, I don't know if any of you have ever made that call where you're like, well, they had varicella. Why is it showing up in the forecaster? And sometimes we even forget, of course it should be showing up in the forecaster. Actually, down the road, that will probably be happening. But it doesn't take into account the, in the previous slide where you had measles, it wouldn't take that into account for the forecasting. But you will see that there. So it is a tool to help with making the decision, but ultimately it's a clinical decision, and this is only a tool to help with that. So I just want to point that out.
And our favorite question is, people call and what happens? It's not forecasting a MEM-B for my 16-year-olds. It won't forecast it until you give the first one, okay? We hope it gets better as they keep going, but right now that's how it works. If you're like, hey, I saw a 16-year-old and I missed it. It didn't. You got to give one. You're right, okay? So that's where it goes back to setting it up. If you're doing a 16-year well, hard code the MEM-B in there, and then the doctor goes, oh, yeah, right, there's your forecaster. Hey, you hit my button. Right. And like Romney was saying, the cool part with these codes, like you said, you can't see them in Lot Manager, but you will see them in the protocols, okay? So if the state is telling you you need to use V07, there's the lovely words and numbers, okay? And when you guys are going into the visit, if you're doing a 4-year-old, if you answer this question before you give those 4 vaccines, it autofills through all the vaccines for you, okay? Not, and then my favorite part, it shows the last answer. So if they had Medicaid last time and they have Blue Cross this time, that's, hey, the family's doing better, things are going great for them, or did we make a mistake? So it's just another fail-safe. And as always, you guys, if you don't give vaccines, now's your time to take your nap and your break. But just kidding, wake up in the back. I see you sleeping. No, so, you guys can go right into scanning. You can mark who gave the order. Here's your scan button right here. You can assign the task to the user, which, do you do nurse MA? Do you do the actual, if there's only 3 of you in the office and it's always going to be Jim and you put Jim's name in there, but if Jim retires, now you're like, why does his name keep coming up? He doesn't work here anymore. It's a sticky field. Change it to the nurse MA and always set it and forget it, right? The cool thing with, I don't remember if it's this screen, maybe it's my next one. Oh, it is. Okay, the viz sheets I wanted to hit on because 2025 they came out with 8 new viz sheets, and PCC, you are too slow because you're not up to it. Guess what? They're there, guys. You need to hit that little down arrow right there, and the newest one is always on top. And then you're like, I need to get rid of the old versions. No, you don't, because VFC wants to know that you've had them. That's why we have to display them, okay? So we're helping you out. Pick the newest one. The first person to pick it, sticky field, set it and forget it, right? Okay? There is a sometimes people hit the plus button here by accident, and they're like, oh my goodness, there's 3 in there, and every time I order it, these 3 viz keep coming up. Well, how do I get rid of them? Go in there, delete the 2 extra ones there, hit save, and it will get rid of it. It's a sticky field, okay? We get that call a lot. Oh my goodness, somebody just kept hitting plus. Well, would you give them 4 copies? So the newest one's always on top. Yes, we know the flu season, the CDC is slow because they give us a data file that says it's called a vendor file. Sometimes they're slow to react when they push it out. We get it out to you as quick as you can. You're not wrong to have the old one there. You're allowed to use them for what? It says until the stock is depleted. You guys are having computers forever, so you're not going to be throwing them away, right? So, and that's the way it used to be. You use it until that paper stack is gone and you go to the new one. You just keep the old one until PCC says, hey, the new flu one's there. Change it, move on, you're good to go, okay? And we know about the viz sheets. I put COVID. I don't know why I give people PTSD. Hey, here's COVID. No, we're going back to wearing masks. No, but no. So, you can do this from the patient education. Do you guys need a photocopy in your office? No. You guys have patient education that you can go to. You find the viz. You can print it and hand it to the family and say, hey, it's at the front desk. But you know what? You're going to find it in the parking lot, or your town's going to come through and say, here's 20 copies that people threw out at the stoplight when they left your office, and they're going to charge you for littering. Because we know we have to give them. We know that. But nothing says that you can't not give it to them via the portal where they can have it. Or give them a book where they're laminated and say, if you need a copy, let me know. I'll get you a copy. That's legal still, okay? So patient education, remember to get a patient education, you need to be in the kiddo's chart. We will have people call us and say, hey, I don't have access to this. You're not in a chart, okay? Get in a patient's chart. It lights up for you. You find the viz you want. Boy, John's getting a lot of, you see that? He's just a great patient, isn't he? So we're going to give him some Tdap. Look at that. It says it right there. Display in portal documents. You guys make sure that's checked off. Oh, and then there it goes. It's there. And we know some people like paper copies. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm one of those guys. Give me a paper copy. Good God, your chart's 1,000 pages, and first one's free. Let's go. I always keep using the first one free, but now, the pediatrician says to me, Jim, you're over 50 now. You're supposed to be on an adult provider now, but I still go. Immunization forms. Again, there's different entities. State forms, school district, camps, they all have different requirements. I say keep it simple, grouping like vaccines together. you guys got to remember one thing. What you see and order in the EHR, if you're ordering a combo, you see that in the kids chart all the time to know you got a combo. When it prints out on the form, have the DTaP go to the DTaP line, have the polio go to the polio line, and Hep B go to the Hep B line. And what is that? Vaxelis now has got like 15 different components now. But, you know, have it go to the specific line. Because I think that's where a lot of errors with the schools, why they call you guys so much, is because you have your combos on there and they miss the IPV. And they're like, they didn't get an IPV. Well, it's right here. Oh, okay. You know, so just break it out. Remember, what you see in the EHR is good for you. And then just remember the records, they're always, a lot of people call us and say, I want them to match. It ain't going to happen, okay? Ain't's a word now. I remember that. Dolly Parton, thank her. She had to add to Webster, right? You guys, when you do your immunization configuration, that's another good point, is when you call PCC and say, I need the new flu vaccine added, we add it, guess what? It drops to the bottom of the list. We don't auto pull it up to bring up the likenesses together, okay? So that's another good thing to remember. So when you're in the kiddo's chart, you're like, I know we just gave him a flu. And it's way at the bottom. Just this is where it is, where you pull it up and bring it up. Help your providers out. Help your nurses out.
Wait.
What? There's more.
There's more. So I've been on several client systems, and I'm looking at the immunization history, and it's like scroll, empty dates. And every time a new immunization is added, it automatically adds a line to that infinitely long immunization screen. Here, under immunization config, see the check marks? Every check mark next to an immunization will indicate that it's on that list. But if it doesn't have a check mark and a patient has an immunization, one of those immunizations without a check mark, it'll show up in their immunization history. So if you want to kind of shrink that scrolling exercise down and just show immunizations that the patient actually had, that has a date with it, then you can just uncheck everything except for the essential ones. I mean, I've heard people talk about, well, we do want to see blank lines if they haven't had HPV, for example. Yep. And so, yeah, keep the check mark there. But if you have like 30 versions of flu or COVID or whatever, yeah, uncheck it. It'll still show up if they have a date, okay? So, and that immunization configuration tool is available for you to move things around, check and uncheck, and all that stuff.
I have a question. So I have a lot of patients. Oh, wow. Yeah, I have a lot of patients like transferring from like Europe and other places. How can I add their specific vaccines?
So those are probably historical vaccine information, and if that's the case, those would be added. Give us a call because we'll add those. There are some non-U.S. immunization CVX codes we can add. We'll add them historically, so they won't be available to order. You know, and with the proper CVX code, that way it'll work with the forecaster. The CVX codes, as you may or may not know, are what work with the forecaster to make the forecasting. So yeah, just give us a call. We'll add it, and then you can add the historical one. If you think it's going to happen quite a bit or whatever, just give us a call, and we'll add them in for you.
All right, and the other tab to this as well is diseases. So you guys can go in here, and you got a couple different choices: display in the IMS history, display on the patient reports, send to the IMS registry. Does that one really work? No, no. Okay, good. No, I was
Yes,
just putting it on the spot.
Yeah, no, that does common, like if they've had varicella and you check that off, and and they have diagnosis codes of had varicella, then it'll go over to the registry, that information, and yeah, you're thinking of a different table.
I'm thinking. All right. So we're going to hand off to Romney because I like to talk. We'll have everybody stand up, reach for the sky, touch your knees. Oh, I said stand up. And then, does anybody want the 5-minute break right now, or do you guys good?
This would be a really good time for break because it's
Oh.
like right in the middle of things, and if anybody
Okay.
needs to use the restroom.
All right, so you got 5 minutes, okay? So let's see. It's 11:15, so at 11:20 we'll convene, okay? All right, everybody back in their seats, ready? Okay. We're going to call some bingo numbers. I-24. Bingo. All right, and here's Romney to talk about some CDX. What would you?
Wait, is it really? I think it's the
This sheet will stay there. The user that gave it is there. The lot number stays there until you change it. So yeah, they're sticky for everybody.
I feel like the Viz sheet is by user. So, yeah, yeah. The sticky fields, depending on the component, different sticky fields are sticky for different people, for different groups. Yeah, some of it's like, Post-it note sticky, and some of it's duct tape sticky. So,
Right, so you've got, what, 35 minutes to...
Really, that's all?
Yeah, we got till noon. The hour and a half goes quick.
I know. Well, so I had fun making these slides. And if you saw Dr. Diazio's presentation earlier, and he used Gemini, and I did too, because, it was fun. I get to ask it questions, and it comes up with cool things. So I don't know if you can guess what's behind this slide. Well, no. I mean, on the slide. Okay, I'll just give it away. It's forecasting, unless somebody changed the slides on me. Nope. There we go. So immunization forecasting, we did brush up on that initially early on before the break. HLN is the company that we work with that has the forecaster called ICE, the immunization calculation engine. It's I'm kind of reiterating kind of what we covered earlier. It's a forecasting aid. It is not there to tell you when exactly to give and not give and all those things. It does work with the CVX codes in the patient's history, so that's also important to make sure that the CVX codes in your immunizations are in the immunization and disease table are configured correctly, and that will help the forecaster help you even better. And let's see, the forecasts in the HR versus the retrieved IMS. Oh, yes. Why did I put that there? Because some of you, now that we have more and more offices that are able to retrieve the immunizations from the registry, may also notice that there's some forecasting in that retrieval. Though, like, here's the IMS that the patient, has that you can pull in, and also here's what we think you should administer. Sometimes that can vary, and that's because they may use different forecasting tools. Also, the forecaster set up, the same forecaster calculations are for all the states. Some states may have slightly different variations, and so you'll see a specific state variation when you're importing the IMS. I haven't actually heard a lot about that, though, but that is a possibility. And future development, I think I mentioned earlier about the varicella, and sometimes people forget that, just because the patient has had it and it's still forecasting for that varicella shot, it still isn't part of the forecasting, but we do plan on working on that to incorporate that in there to make that easier, and also for, other diseases that they may have had, or titers. All right, so workflow. I want to talk about workflow because it impacts how your records go to the registry. Now, everybody here is from very, different practices, and they work in different states, and you would not believe how different every state does things. Some states will only let you send an immunization record initially, and then if you make any changes, you're going to have to go online and fix it in there, whatever you did in the EHR. Some of them, I think Jim was suggesting, like if something's funny with a lot number and you needed to change it, if you did that and it was with a state that allows you to update records, it'll queue up an update and send that over and send the correction over. The thing that I've noticed the most issues with especially folks beginning with submitting immunizations to the registry is, and I just actually found out about this workflow that I never considered it happening, but everybody does things differently. People would schedule a patient for an appointment. They're a new patient. They're on the phone. They're just trying to get in enough information, like a phone number, patient's name, and they'll collect the rest of the demographics later. Okay, so the appointment's scheduled in 2 weeks, right? In between the time they come in, they get faxed the patient's records, the immunization records. So the diligent MA is like typing away, entering in all the details of the immunization records that came over, getting ready for that appointment. As soon as those records are entered into the patient's chart, that's not fully complete yet because you're waiting until the appointment to complete the demographics. As soon as those immunizations are entered into the chart, they're queued up to go out to the registry. And the registry says, nope, we don't know who this kid is. You just gave us a name and maybe a phone number. And they reject all of those records that you put in. Now, on one, it could be very stressful. You're like, oh my God, I got all these errors and that's terrible. Now I have to go into the registry and enter them in. Probably if you've done that, you've probably noticed, oh, they're already there because actually the person who administered it has put in the record. So it's not perhaps the end of the world, but if you're a new practice and you're trying to go live with a registry and they're real sticklers for errors, they will fail you until you have error-free records going in. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that workflow. It was new to me. It never occurred to me, but actually it makes perfect sense. Put in the immunization history after you know that the demographics are complete. And the reason why is because you want, as soon as the immunizations are entered into the chart, whether it's historical or even if it's ordered and it's administered, as soon as you hit save, that's queued up to go out. And depending on the configuration of your, registry's system, it'll go out in 5 minutes or it'll go out the next morning. All right. Wow, I think I covered all this. We're good. I'm just kidding. All right, no, I'll carry on here in the nitty-gritty details. So some states actually are real sticklers for the mother's maiden name. And some states just, they don't care. But they use all of these points for patient matching because they want to make sure the records get on the right record and that they don't make a lot of duplicate records that they later have to merge. Also, for wow, I'm blanking on the name, epidemiology and stuff like that. Making sure that everybody in our community is is equally covered. Well, no, I'm talking about demographics too, but yes, that also gets in there. That they want to make sure that when they run the reports, they're like, oh wait, this town or this group of people or whatever aren't getting, the immunizations. Why is that? Can we do something to make that better? So that's the reason why they ask all those questions, and they want all that information to come over to the registry. A home account, address, phone number. What I didn't put in here, and I probably should have, is the email address. So in the email address on your parents' accounts, that's a free form field. And I don't know how many clients here who've been with PCC for a while. When we first put that field in, who's giving out their email, right? So they just put all kinds of notes in there. Well, now the registries want an email address, and it's like mom's email, dad's email, 500 emails, or like Spot the dog might come in. You never know what's in that free-form text field. It gets sent over to the registry, and the registry's like, what is this? So as you're going along and checking people in, and you see wild stuff in that field, it will help you a lot to. Okay, so the email field in the parent's account, so the custodial account or the billing account, or it's the same if it's the same. Yeah, not to be confused with the personal contacts, which is something you can add, and I hope everybody uses that. It's a super handy field. You can put in the contact information of mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, aunt, uncle, whatever. You can label it. You can put in an email. That email field will not let you put in all kinds of wacky stuff. It'll just say it's an email or nothing. A phone number. It's fantastic. That personal contact information also can go over to the registry, but it goes over in a separate field, and it's considered like a next of kin information. So there's two places where emails come into play. The one that causes the most grief, however, is the one in the account, the custodial account. And I did mention adding immunization history after you have all the demographics. Let's see here. So for existing patients, so if you have existing patients and you want to, you should confirm the demographic information. If you are in a state where, and actually there's most of us now, so I love that map, it's so nice and green. Anyway, if you have bidirectional, retrieve the IMS. It will definitely indicate whether or not you have enough matching demographics if you can't find anything. Now, sometimes it can't find anything for other reasons. There's a lot of reasons why you can't, when you press that retrieve IMS button, that nothing comes up. Some of them can be either your patient doesn't have enough demographics in the chart to match anything, or if you're in a state where they're like, you're an opt-in, opt-out state, they may have opted out, and so the registry cannot give you that information. So they'll say, nope, we don't have that patient. Or there might be several records that have the same demographics, and we're like, whoa, there's too many. You're going to have to check in the registry yourself. So there's a lot of reasons why you can't match. But if you do have, the ability, if you have that retrieve IMS button in your system, go ahead and click it and see what it gets you. And that right there will help you out a lot. Also, then you don't have to enter all that historical stuff because it's probably right there. Updating the VFC eligibility for immunizations ordered that day. Yeah, I have no idea exactly why I put that there. So,
because they do need that state funding. They need that funding source for the registry. Remember that?
oh, yes, yeah. But this is not a demographics thing. Well, except for yeah. So in some states, I know that not everybody participates with VFC. However, some states do require you to indicate what their VFC status would be, whether or not you participate. And I can't remember off the top of my head which ones. They're so very different. I had a lot of fun with Gemini, and I am a science fiction fan. I forgot what I told it, but I think it was something about sending in demographics. So here we are, our little space aliens going off to the registry with all our forms, our checkbox. We got our race, ethnicity, preferred language, all that stuff. Let's see what happens. And here's our little alien form. So let me see if I can find that little red dot again. If you want, by the way, by default, this mother's maiden name field is not by default available. If you find that you really want to record that, let us know. Actually, you can do it yourself in the protocol configuration tool. But, sometimes it gets a little wild in there and you're like, I don't know where it's tucked away. Even I, who am in it quite a bit, I'm like, okay, I got to go here and there. Okay, yeah. Anyway, if it's not there and you want it, let us know, and we can get that put in there. In order for the mother's maiden name to go over, you need both a first name and a last name. And, if the mother's maiden name is the same as their current name because they didn't change it, that's fine too. Some states require it, and they're like, well, I didn't change my name. That's okay. They just need something there because it helps with the patient matching. Yeah. Oh, one thing I want to point out, and I'm not sure if I pointed out further in the slides. You see this here, this multiple birth field? So many people just click, yeah. Yep, they're twin, maybe a triplet, maybe one of the octuplets, whatever, Don't know. We're just clicking yes. Then the registry will be like, hey, what order? So if you do hit yes, fill in that field. If you don't, it'll just be blank, and then they'll be upset with you. Oh, oh. Yeah, no, this is only for multiple birth, not siblings. Yes. All right. Oh, another thing I want to mention, actually, and I see less and less of this, by the way. First name. So back in the day, especially for older PCC clients, we didn't have all these fun fields like first name, nickname, middle name, all this stuff. We do now. It's great. If they have a middle name, put it in the middle name field. If they have a nickname, put it in the nickname field. They used to put nicknames or preferred names or middle names in the first name field with like quotes and stuff like that, and that really messed things up. And what's not helpful is that when you're looking at the patient glob, in the corner of the chart, if they have a first name and a middle name, it'll put the middle name in quotes, and you're like, oh my God, there's quotes there. Probably not. It puts it in quotes if you have put it in the middle name field, or if you put it in the first name field and you put it in quotes, it looks just the same. Actually, it's been less and less of a problem now that people have noticed there's a nickname field, but I just wanted to mention that. Use the fields as they're intended. And you'll have a lot more success with the registry, because we use these fields very specifically to communicate with not just the registry, but with HIEs, with labs, with all kinds of things. Oh, look at me! This one click, and all we get is these cool stars, because I was not anticipating the red dot that I could point to. Anyway, that was fun. Oh, look at that. Okay, so I know. Last year I had animations and nobody could print it out. Right. So I chilled on the animations, but I just added stars. Okay. So we covered all these things, and this better do something next time I press it. There we go. Okay. Demographics. This personal contacts. So I did mention earlier about the custodial account, which is what goes over for the patient contact, where they live, how to find them, who to call. Now, we also have personal contacts. You can have multiple personal contacts. We will send all the personal contacts that are listed for that patient to the registry. It's okay if you have, aunts and uncles in there. You have to have at least mom or guardian or dad or, somebody like that in your contact list as well. But it has very specific fields. Use them, they're great. And in the account demographics, this is what I was talking about. This email field here, not the same as the previous screen of the personal contacts field. Okay, so this email field is different than, which one am I going? Than this email field. This is that free-form field I was talking about back in the old days when we were using the dark side, which I kind of miss, but anyway. That was even, more wild. But yeah, so that email field, just make sure it just has one well-formatted email, and you will be happier with your registry, and the registry will be happier with you. This is not related. I did include this because this is part of a component about communication preferences. So, you have your patient's confidential communication preference. You may or may not use a lot, but under that component is the immunization registry communication preferences. Now, your state, every state, and I mean, it is a wild west out there of how the registries use this. I'm not picking on Texas, but I'm picking on Texas, who can't even use this field. But in New Hampshire, when you click share with registry no, the record isn't even allowed to go over, okay? But actually most registries, if it's a state where you opt in or opt out, and you say share with registry no, they still want the record. They just don't share it with everybody else. So, if anybody were to query that record, they won't be able to get anything. So it varies from state to state. Some states don't let you opt in or opt out. They're like, yeah, we want everything, and this is our state, and this is how we do things. So you should be aware of how that works, because some states are very, very particular. New York State, they don't care about the opt-in, opt-out until a patient's 19. And then once they're 19, then they care very, very, very much. And they'll get upset if it's just blank. Then underneath there, and it's not there for everybody because some states don't care, but you can select like a preferred way to reach out. So if the registry's like, we need to reach out to everybody who's had this lot number or something, they want to know how that patient prefers to be contacted, and that goes over as well. Now that we've got all of our ducks in a row, and we've crossed our T's, dotted our I's, and everything's good to go, we're going to take that record and we're going to send it to the registry. And it is quite a trip. In order for a successful journey to the registry for our fearless immunization record, we need to have everything complete, okay? In order for it to go over without any, hitting any asteroids on the way or whatever. Sorry, I didn't mean to zap you with my laser pointer, but Jim has already gone over this quite a bit, but it is, once you fill this out, or even if you don't fill it out completely, if you hit save changes, it's going to be like, okay, this has been administered, we're good to go. And with or without all the passengers on our spaceship. So just make sure that everything is recorded. If it's a refused immunization, put a refusal reason in. And it's not just that the registry would give you like a warning or an error if you send something that was refused and didn't have a refusal reason. Connect sends you a warning. Well, some do worse. Some are like in the background in the HL7 land of things. If it's refused, it'll have a little like RE for refused, and it seems obvious it was refused. We said it was refused, but if there's no refusal reason, they're like, "Oh, you must have administered it." And I'm like, "No, it wasn't administered." Like, well, you didn't put in, a refusal reason in. I don't think that's happening as much anymore, but some of the registries were really messing up people's inventory and school records because it was coming over as administered in some cases. So I haven't seen that happening in the past year, but it was happening quite a bit for a while, and that was terrifying. Anyway, so you never know what these wily registries are going to do. And I don't want to poke fun at them because I work with them closely, and I've been to their conferences, and they're working really hard with very little resources. Is actually magic what they're able to do. Anyway, we're all in this together and working through it. So anyway, don't forget your refused reason if you mark something as refused. And also, if you change any of these things and you're working with a registry where they will accept updated records, that's great, because as soon as if you change the lot number or the viz sheet or the route or site or any of that, it will send over an updated record with those latest changes. All right, so let's say you did all this and you hit save, administer, whatever. As soon as you do that, it queues it up. Everybody's getting loaded on the bus. And depending on your configuration, it might go out every 5 minutes. It's like New York City. It's like boom, boom, boom. We have trains going all day long. Or it could be like in Vermont, where maybe it comes at 6 a.m. tomorrow. So, not to pick on my dear home state here, but so things get queued up, but they get sent out on certain schedules. And then once they get sent out, then and they go to this big hub, and we put all the immunizations together, and based on your office, and if you have more than one facility, one location, then on the facilities, it will do all the calculations and stuff and send them over for your office, okay? And it transforms everything into the language that the registries speak. And I say this because the registries require coding and stuff like that. And maybe the VFC coordinator that comes by to visit and terrorize your office says, hey, we need the VFC status or the state funding source status to say this. And they have like very specific wording. And it's like, no, you don't. You need this code. But they're not working in HL7 land, so they don't even know about the codes perhaps. Anyway, if you ever have that kind of conversation with interaction with a VFC coordinator and you need some help, we'd be glad to set up a meeting, have a quick little Zoom call, and get on the same playing field, the same using the same terminology to get that sorted out. But the HL7, I don't know if I have any examples of what's in here because I didn't want to frighten you all, but it's just a lot of numbers and pipes and some text, and just to make it slightly human readable. So it's very specific. So we do all that and we send it on over, and we process the message. We add the records to the patients if we can. You'll see errors and warnings, and eventually, hopefully, if that registry can properly format a response, you'll get the acknowledgement messages, and they'll be returned into your EHR, where then you can hopefully view them in the immunization registry response viewer. And I don't know how many more slides I have because we're going behind time. Oh my goodness. I'll go really quick. This is great. If you have this is great. If you go and click on something and it gives you some sort of weird reason and you're like, I don't understand this gobbledygook because the registry doesn't translate it back into human speech, give us a call. The responses and errors are very standard and you'll get used to them. Common ones are the PID segment, which is the patient identification. If there's anything funny with that, it'll refer to that PID segment. If there's anything funny with, the shared with registry piece or whatever, it'll be the PD1 segment. The NK1, that's your personal contacts. So if there's anything going on with that segment, with your personal contacts, you'll see a response that's referring to NK1. These slides are now easier to print, so if you want to download them and look at them for reference, they're helpful, especially this acknowledgement piece. The ORC is the order, and that includes the provider that ordered the vaccine and the provider of the visit. The RXA segment is all about the immunization, when it was administered, who administered it, the lot number, and all that stuff. And RXR is the route and site, and the OBX is all the other funding source stuff. I don't want to go into detail because now we have 5 minutes and I'm freaking out that I'm overly long. But, what? Okay, we'll go real quick. Okay, so anyway, we did that, and now we're going to query really quick. And also, by the way, there is an immunization walk-in after lunch, so please come in for questions. Retrieving immunizations, we did discuss this really quick. It uses the name, address, and date of birth, sometimes more. And then, you've got your, as I mentioned earlier, your forecasting also here, which is not always the same as the forecasting in the EHR. Sometimes it may or may not match exactly. But you have your demographics screen, and then your to confirm the patient, and then all these orange guys here are the ones that you can download and reconcile into the patient's chart. And if you notice, sometimes you'll have a drop down to choose, because that means you have more than one immunization in your configuration that shares the same CVX code, especially some clients who had like VFC versus private, and so they have the same shot but two different names. So then you choose the one that you want to use to call it by. Best practices for submitting and retrieving records with your immunization registry. CVX codes that match. DTaP. We've got, could be 106, could be 20. Know which one you're giving. It seems, it's very important for forecasting and for reporting to the registry and for everybody else in your community to know exactly what flavor of vaccine they got. NDC codes can help you. Some states require them. Okay, the NDC code in the immunization and disease, or in the the vaccine lot manager is not the same as in the procedure table. So you will be putting NDC codes in 2 places. Sometimes we forget that. Add the immunizations after you've made sure that the demographics are complete. Know your state-specific immunization reporting requirements, VFC eligibility, funding source, etc. We know quite a bit, but they change regularly without a lot of notice, and sometimes it's hard to keep up, and you will help us help you in that process. Review reports in the HR. Jim went over a couple of them. The immunization registry, immunization administration details report is awesome. I sometimes help people make a custom report just to make sure that all the registry information is easy to review really quick to make sure all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted. Some links which you will be able to access if you download this slideshow. And okay, you got 30 seconds.
All right, can I borrow? All right, and here we go. All right, so charge posting. When we look at this, you guys always say when you're doing your charge posting, we know Z23 is what a vaccine is. You can select it in your configuration that it always shows Z23. Some people like to do it on the encounter form once. If you do it for every vaccine, it lumps it all together and only sends it out once, right? You're not gonna, if you see 12 on there, you're gonna, oh, no, don't worry about it, okay? The other thing is to remember is your 90460, and I'm gonna shorten those down, so it's the 460 and the 471s. That's with counseling, without counseling. And then when to use the 461 versus the 472s, okay? Because we know with counseling, when you use the 461s, we know for MMRV, it's 1460 and then the 3 components. But if you're doing it without counseling, it's 1471 and 1472. So it just doesn't follow that conventional thinking. We always love this coding stuff, right? So just remember, are you counseling or you're not counseling, okay? And if it's a nurse visit or not a nurse visit, right? Because some of you guys are like, wait, 471's for my nurse visits. Yes, you're right. But every now and then, your nurse can say to the doctor, this person has a question. Now I'm changing it to the doctor's name and I'm going to do the 460 and get paid more for it because the doctor went in there. Here's your takeaways. Lunch today is going to be grilled cheese and tomato soup. No, I'm just kidding. Ask us. We're friends. We all work together. You love PCC. You're using PCC. Use us. We use you. We all work together. Vaccines they're a good thing, right? Like Dr. Diazio said, it's the hardest cell, but it's one of the most important cells, okay? And you have a CA, you have support, you have us, use us. Hey, Jim, you did a class last week. I want to know what report you were talking about. How do I customize that? Because in chat, we had, I want to forecast how many Hep A's I'm going to give in the next month. So you guys in the reports library have an appointment-based report. You customize it. We know we give Hep A at what age? 2. Okay, so we give it at 2. So you're going to customize your appointment history report for all 2-year-olds coming in the next 30 days. That's how you're going to forecast roughly how many you're going to use. You do that at age, and you're going to have to customize for every age. If it's a 12-month visits, if it's 15 months, if it's 2, it's 4. So you call us. We can customize those. I do it a lot. And I just say that's how we do it. We say, hey, customize this report. And yes, we know people are going to cancel, but you also know the doctor has a lot of money, but you want to save money. So that just helps you do a pre-count, okay? And because we bored you all for the last hour and 30 minutes, fill out the survey and say, we're awesome, woohoo! And guess what? It's lunchtime, and if you have questions, you can ping them to the app, come up here, or as Romney says, the shameless plugs we have an immunization drop-in after lunch. So thank you guys very much.